The Billionaire's Forgotten Wife, Complete Story. Part 1, The Betrayal and Awakening. The anniversary that changed everything. The champagne sat untouched on the marble counter, bubbles rising lazily in the crystal flute. Elena Martinez had spent 3 hours preparing the perfect anniversary dinner. 5 years of marriage deserved celebration, didn't it? The dining room glowed with candlelight, rose petals scattered artfully across the table. She'd even worn the red dress Victor had once said made her look beautiful. Once said being the key words. These days, Victor barely looked at her at all. Elena checked her phone again. 9:47 p.m. Victor was supposed to be home at 7. She'd called his office 3 times, each call going straight to voicemail. This wasn't unusual anymore. Over the past year, Victor had become a ghost in their marriage, present in name only. The sound of the front door opening made Elena's heart leap. She quickly smoothed her dress and arranged her face into a smile. Maybe tonight would be different. Maybe he'd remember. Victor? Dinner's ready, I made your favorite. The words died in her throat. Victor wasn't alone. Behind him stood Diane, Elena's stepsister, her perfectly manicured hand resting possessively on Victor's arm. They were laughing about something, their heads close together in a way that spoke of intimacy. Oh. Diane's eyes widened in mock surprise. Elena, we didn't think you'd still be awake. Elena's stomach twisted. It's our anniversary. Victor's expression didn't change. No guilt, no apology, just mild annoyance. Right. I forgot. 3 words that shattered 5 years of trying. The photographs that told the truth. You forgot. Elena's voice came out smaller than she intended. Victor, I've been waiting for hours. Well, I'm here now. Victor loosened his tie, walking past her toward the living room as if she were invisible. Diane followed, her designer heels clicking against the marble floor with deliberate confidence. Elena stood frozen, watching them settle onto the couch like they owned the place. Like she was the intruder in her own home. Actually, Elena, we need to talk. Victor pulled out his phone, tapping something on the screen. Diane and I have something to tell you. The casual way he said it made Elena's blood run cold. She moved into the living room, her legs feeling disconnected from her body. The champagne glass trembled in her hand. What's going on? Diane smiled, the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. Victor and I are in love. We have been for over a year now. The words hung in the air like poison. Elena looked at Victor, waiting for him to deny it, to tell Diane to stop being cruel. But he just sat there, his expression blank. Victor? Elena whispered. He finally met her eyes. It's true. Diane understands me in ways you never could. You're nice, Elena. You're kind and you try hard. But you're boring. You've always been boring. Each word was a knife, carefully placed. Elena had spent 5 years being the perfect wife. She'd given up her job to support his career. She'd hosted his business dinners, smiled at his colleagues, never complained when he missed birthdays and holidays. I don't understand. Elena's voice shook. If you felt this way, why didn't you just tell me? Because you were convenient. Victor stood up, straightening his jacket. Your mother's company shares were useful for my business expansion. But now that the merger is complete, I don't need you anymore. The truth hit like a physical blow. Their entire marriage had been a transaction. You married me for business? Elena's voice cracked. Oh, honey. Diane stood, wrapping her arm around Victor's waist. Everyone knew that. Even your father agreed it was the smart move. Why do you think he encouraged the marriage? The family dinner from hell. 2 days later, Elena sat at her father's dining table, surrounded by family who felt like strangers. Her father, Richard Martinez, sat at the head of the table. Her stepmother, Diane's mother Catherine, smiled pleasantly as if nothing was wrong. And there was Diane, glowing with victory. Victor had requested this dinner. Elena had assumed it was to apologize, maybe to work things out. She'd been wrong. Elena, we've gathered everyone here because Victor has something important to share. Her father's tone was businesslike, the same voice he used in boardrooms. Victor cleared his throat, pulling out an envelope. Elena, I'm filing for divorce. These are the papers. I'd appreciate it if you'd sign them tonight so we can all move forward. The room tilted. Elena gripped the edge of the table. Divorce? She looked around the table, searching for support. Dad? Richard Martinez didn't meet her eyes. It's for the best, Elena. Victor and Diane are better suited. You'll be fine. You're young, you can start over. Better suited? Elena's voice rose. She's my stepsister. And Victor is my husband. Was your husband? Diane placed her hand over Victor's. And honey, let's be honest. You never really fit into his world. You're too simple, too plain. Victor needs someone who can match his ambition. I supported his ambition. I gave up everything for his career. And we appreciate that. Victor's tone was patronizing, like he was talking to a child. You played your part well. But now it's time to move on. Catherine, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. Elena, dear, you should be grateful. Victor is being generous with the settlement. $20,000 should be enough to get you started somewhere new. $20,000. After 5 years of marriage to a millionaire. After giving up her own career, her own dreams. I have another reason for wanting this done quickly. Diane's smile was triumphant. I'm pregnant. Victor and I are having a baby. The announcement landed like a bomb. Elena's father actually smiled. Her stepmother clapped her hands together. Even Victor looked pleased, his arm wrapping around Diane protectively. Elena felt like she was watching this happen to someone else. This couldn't be real. Her family couldn't be celebrating her replacement with such joy. The signing and the storm. Elena stared at the divorce papers in front of her. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the pen. Everything she'd built for 5 years was ending at a dinner table, with her family watching like spectators at a show. Just sign it, Elena. Her father's voice was tired, impatient. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Harder than it needs to be? Elena's voice was barely above a whisper, but something in it made everyone go quiet. My husband cheated with my stepsister. He married me for business reasons. He's throwing me away like garbage. And you're all acting like I'm the problem for being upset? Don't be dramatic. Diane rolled her eyes. You'll find someone else. Someone more your level. That was the moment something inside Elena broke. Or maybe it didn't break. Maybe it woke up. She picked up the pen. Everyone leaned forward slightly, anticipating her signature. Instead, Elena flipped through the pages, reading carefully. Victor had offered her nothing. No alimony, no property, just $20,000 and a demand that she leave the city within 30 days. These terms are interesting. Elena's voice was steadier now. You're giving me almost nothing. You're entitled to nothing. Victor leaned back in his chair. We had a prenup, remember? You signed away any claim to my assets. Elena did remember. She'd signed it without reading, trusting Victor when he said it was just a formality. How foolish she'd been. Fine. Elena signed her name on every required line. The scratch of pen on paper was the only sound in the room. When she finished, she placed the pen down carefully and stood up. Everyone relaxed. They'd won. Elena, dear, you're doing the right thing. Her stepmother's voice was oily with false sympathy. You'll see, this is all for the best. Elena picked up her purse. I have one question, Victor. He was already looking at his phone, already dismissing her. What? Did you ever love me? Even a little bit? Victor finally looked up. His eyes were cold, empty. No. I never did. The honesty was almost a relief. At least now she knew. Elena walked out of that dining room with her head high. She heard them start talking before she even reached the door, already planning the wedding, already erasing her from their lives. She made it to her car before the tears came. 5 years of her life, gone. A marriage that had been a lie from the start. A family that valued business over blood. Elena cried until she had nothing left. Then she wiped her eyes, started the car, and drove to the only person she had left, her mother's lawyer, Margaret Chen. The truth revealed. Margaret Chen's office was in an old building downtown, nothing like the sleek corporate towers Victor preferred. Elena had called ahead, and Margaret had agreed to see her immediately despite the late hour. Elena. Margaret stood when she entered, concern clear on her weathered face. I heard about the divorce. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Elena collapsed into a chair. Just tell me I have some options. Anything. I can't let them destroy me like this. Margaret sat down, folding her hands on her desk. Elena, there's something I need to tell you. Something your mother made me promise to keep secret until you were 28 years old. Elena frowned. What are you talking about? Your mother, God rest her soul, she knew people would try to take advantage of you. So she set up a trust, very carefully hidden. Your father doesn't know about it. Neither does Victor or anyone else. Elena's heart began to pound. What kind of trust? Margaret pulled out a thick file. Your mother was the sole founder of Martinez Tech, before your father came into the picture. He contributed nothing to the company, though he's taken credit for years. When she died, she left everything to you, but she knew you were too young to protect it. So she set up a trust that would remain sealed until your 28th birthday. My 28th birthday is next week. I know. Margaret smiled, opening the file. Elena, you're not broke. You're not powerless. You are the sole owner of Martinez Tech. The company is worth approximately $2 billion. And as of next week, it's all yours. The words didn't make sense at first. Elena just stared at Margaret, trying to process the information. 2 billion? Your father has been running the company as CEO, but he has no ownership. It was all your mother's. And now it's yours. Victor married you trying to gain access to these shares. That's why he courted you so carefully 5 years ago, right before your 23rd birthday. He thought that as your husband, he'd eventually gain control. Elena's mind raced. But the prenup protects his assets from you. Not yours from him. And since he never knew about your inheritance, he never thought to include it in the agreement. Margaret leaned forward. Elena, you can walk away from this marriage with everything. Or what? Or you can take back what's yours and make them all pay for underestimating you. The transformation begins. Elena's 28th birthday fell on a Tuesday. She celebrated it alone in a hotel room, staring at the legal documents that had just made her one of the wealthiest women in the country. For 5 years, she'd been treated like she was worthless. Her father had marginalized her, Victor had used her, Diane had mocked her. They'd all assumed she was weak, forgettable, easy to discard. They were about to learn how wrong they'd been. Elena's first call was to Margaret. I want complete control of Martinez Tech. My father is removed as CEO effective immediately. Consider it done. Her second call was to a stylist Margaret had recommended. I need a complete transformation. New clothes, new hair, new everything. Money is no object. By Friday, Elena Martinez was unrecognizable. Her mousy brown hair was now a sleek black bob. Her plain dresses were replaced with designer power suits. She'd hired a team of the best business consultants in the country and begun studying everything about her company. Martinez Tech had been struggling under her father's leadership. He'd made poor decisions, alienated key clients, and run the company into debt trying to maintain his lifestyle. Elena discovered he'd been embezzling money for years, stealing from the company her mother had built. On Monday morning, Elena walked into Martinez Tech headquarters for the first time as owner. The receptionist didn't recognize her. "I'm here to see Richard Martinez. Do you have an appointment?" Elena smiled, the kind of smile that had nothing to do with kindness. "Tell him his daughter is here to see him. Tell him Elena has arrived." The receptionist's eyes widened. She picked up the phone, whispering urgently. Within minutes, security appeared, along with the company's COO. "Ms. Martinez, we weren't expecting you." "I know. That's the point." Elena walked past them toward the elevator. "Call an emergency board meeting. Everyone in the conference room in 30 minutes. The COO hurried after her. "Ms. Martinez, your father is no longer CEO." "I am." Elena pressed the button for the executive floor. "Anyone who has a problem with that can submit their resignation today." The board meeting was chaos. Her father arrived red-faced and furious, demanding to know what was going on. The board members were confused, having been told for years that Richard owned the company. Elena let them talk, let them rage. Then she placed the ownership documents on the table. "Gentlemen and ladies, let me make this very clear. My mother, Sofia Martinez, founded this company 28 years ago. Every share, every asset, every dollar belongs to her estate. And her estate belongs to me. My father has been running this company as a placeholder, nothing more." "That's a lie." Richard slammed his fist on the table. "I built this company. You bankrupted this company." Elena's voice was ice. "You've been embezzling funds, making terrible business decisions, and running us into the ground. But that ends today." She turned to the board. "I'm restructuring everything. New leadership, new direction, new vision. Anyone who wants to stay will work with me. Anyone who doesn't can leave with a generous severance package. But make no mistake, I am in charge now." Her father tried to argue, tried to intimidate her the way he always had. But Elena didn't back down. She had Margaret and a team of lawyers standing by. She had documentation of every illegal thing her father had done. By the end of the day, Richard Martinez was escorted from the building, his career in ruins. Elena sat in the CEO's office, her office now, and looked out over the city. Somewhere out there, Victor was going about his life, thinking he'd won. Thinking Elena was broken and defeated. He had no idea what was coming. The first move. 2 weeks after taking control of Martinez Tech, Elena made her first major business move. She investigated every company Victor owned or had invested in. His main company, Westfield Enterprises, was impressive on the surface but financially unstable underneath. Victor had overextended himself, taking on massive debt to maintain the appearance of success. He'd counted on using Martinez Tech's resources to bail himself out, part of his long-term plan when he married Elena. But Elena wasn't going to help him. She was going to destroy him. She started small. Martinez Tech had several contracts with Westfield Enterprises. Elena canceled them all, citing restructuring. Victor's company took an immediate financial hit. Then she began poaching his employees. She offered better salaries, better benefits, better everything. Within a month, 3 of Victor's top executives had jumped ship to Martinez Tech. She bought up his debts from banks, becoming his primary creditor. She purchased properties he'd been interested in, driving up prices. She systematically began dismantling everything he'd built. And she did it all from the shadows, using shell companies and intermediaries. Victor had no idea who was attacking him or why his business was suddenly falling apart. Elena attended a business gala 3 months after the divorce. She wore a gold dress that cost more than Victor had offered her in the settlement. Her hair was perfect, her makeup flawless. She looked like money, power, and confidence. Victor was there, of course, schmoozing with investors, trying to save his sinking company. Diane was with him, her pregnancy apparently a lie that had been exposed weeks ago. They were still together, but the cracks were showing. Elena stood across the room, champagne in hand, and watched them. Victor looked stressed, older somehow. Diane looked angry, probably because the wealthy lifestyle she'd expected wasn't materializing. They hadn't noticed Elena yet. She looked too different, too confident, too powerful. She waited, patient as a spider. And when Victor finally looked her way, when their eyes met across the crowded room, she raised her glass in a silent toast. The recognition hit him like a truck. His face went white, then red. He grabbed Diane's arm, saying something urgent. They both stared at Elena in shock. Elena just smiled, turned away, and walked into her new life. The game had only just begun. Part 2, The Rise and Reunion, 2,000 words. The Queen of Manhattan. 6 months after the divorce, Elena Martinez had become a legend in business circles. The media called her the Phoenix CEO, rising from nowhere to save a dying company. Forbes had just featured her on their cover with the headline, "The Woman Who Built an Empire Overnight." If only they knew the truth. She hadn't built it overnight. She'd inherited it and then transformed it into something even her mother couldn't have imagined. Martinez tech stock had tripled under Elena's leadership. She'd restructured the entire company, fired the deadweight her father had hired, and brought in the best talent money could buy. More importantly, she'd started acquiring other companies, building a business empire that stretched across multiple industries. Elena stood in her corner office on the 45th floor, looking out over Manhattan. The city glittered below her like stars had fallen to earth. This office was 3 times the size of her father's old one. The furniture was minimalist and expensive. Everything here spoke of power. Her assistant, James, knocked politely before entering. "Ms. Martinez, your 3 o'clock is here." Elena checked her reflection in the window. Black power suit, heels that added 3 inches to her height, hair pulled back in a severe bun. She looked like what she was, someone you didn't cross. "Send them in." But James hesitated. "Ma'am, there's something you should know. It's Victor Westfield." Elena's expression didn't change, though her heart rate quickened. "Victor? He's requesting an emergency meeting. He says it's about a potential investment opportunity." Elena almost laughed. Victor was here to beg. How delicious. "Give me 5 minutes, then send him in." She sat down at her desk, pulled out a file she'd been maintaining on Victor's company, and waited. When the door opened, she didn't look up immediately. Let him wait. Let him feel small. "Ms. Martinez, thank you for seeing me on such short notice." Victor's voice was different. The arrogance was gone, replaced by desperation. Elena finally looked up, keeping her expression neutral. Victor looked terrible. He'd lost weight, his expensive suit hanging a bit too loose. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. His hair, always perfectly styled, looked like he'd been running his hands through it nervously. "Mr. Westfield." Elena gestured to the chair across from her desk. "Please, sit." The man who didn't recognize his ex-wife. Victor sat down, briefcase on his lap, and launched into his pitch immediately. "Ms. Martinez, I've been following your incredible success with Martinez Tech. What you've accomplished in 6 months is extraordinary." Elena said nothing, just watched him. This was fascinating. "I'm here to propose a partnership. Westfield Enterprises has several projects that would benefit from Martinez Tech's resources. If we combine our strengths." "Mr. Westfield." Elena cut him off smoothly. "I'm familiar with your company's situation. You're hemorrhaging money, your investors are pulling out, and you're drowning in debt. What exactly do you bring to this partnership besides problems?" Victor's face flushed. "We're experiencing temporary setbacks, but..." "Temporary?" Elena opened the file on her desk. You've lost 12 major clients in the past 6 months. Your stock price has dropped 60%. 3 of your board members have resigned. These aren't temporary setbacks. This is a company in freefall. Which is exactly why we need to work together. Victor leaned forward, his desperation showing. With your backing, I can turn everything around. I just need capital and time. Elena studied him. Did he really not recognize her? She looked different, yes, but surely he'd remember his own ex-wife's face. Tell me, Mr. Westfield, why should I invest in a sinking ship when I could simply wait for it to go under and buy the pieces I want at bankruptcy prices? Victor's jaw clenched. Because it's the right thing to do? Because sometimes powerful people should help those in need? Now Elena did laugh, cold and sharp. The right thing? Help those in need? That's your pitch? She stood up, walking around the desk slowly. Victor's eyes followed her, still not recognizing her. Maybe it was the different hair color. Maybe it was the confidence that radiated from her now. Maybe he'd never really looked at her at all. Let me tell you something about power, Mr. Westfield. Elena stopped behind her desk chair, gripping the leather. Power isn't given to those who cry and beg. It's taken by those who are strong enough to seize it. You had power once, and you threw it away on foolish decisions and even more foolish relationships. Something flickered in Victor's eyes. Confusion, maybe the first hint of recognition. Do I know you? He squinted at her. Have we met before? Elena smiled, leaning forward. We've met. Though you wouldn't remember. You weren't very good at remembering the people you used. And then it clicked. She saw the moment he realized who she was. His eyes widened, his face went pale, and he actually stood up so fast his chair fell backward. Elena? Hello, Victor. Her voice was silk over steel. Surprised to see me? The truth about Diane. Victor stared at Elena like he was seeing a ghost. This is impossible. You're Elena? In the flesh. She sat back down, gesturing for him to pick up his chair. Though a much improved version, don't you think? Victor scrambled to right his chair, his hands shaking. I don't understand. Martinez Tech, you're the CEO? How? Did you really think you knew everything about me, Victor? Elena's smile was sharp. You married me for my mother's company, but you never actually checked to see if you'd succeeded in getting it. Turns out, you married me for nothing. She watched the realization dawn on his face. The years of manipulation, the fake love, the careful seduction, all of it had been for nothing because he'd never had access to her inheritance. You knew. Victor's voice was hoarse. You knew I married you for business. I found out the night you asked for a divorce. Margaret Chen filled me in on all the details. Elena pulled out another file. Including these interesting documents showing how you tried to forge papers claiming ownership of Martinez Tech shares. That's fraud, by the way. I could have you arrested. Victor sank into his chair, the fight going out of him. Are you going to? No. Elena closed the file. Prison would be too easy. I want you to watch as I take everything from you, piece by piece, the way you tried to take everything from me. Elena, please. Victor's voice cracked. I made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But my company, hundreds of people work for me. They'll lose their jobs if I go under. Should have thought of that before you embezzled from your own company to maintain your lifestyle. Elena pulled out yet another file. Did you think I wouldn't investigate? You've been stealing from Westfield Enterprises for years, Victor. Just like my father stole from Martinez Tech. Victor's face went white. How did you? I'm very thorough. It's amazing what you find when you actually look. Elena stood up, signaling the meeting was over. Your employees will be fine. When your company collapses, I'll be buying the assets. Anyone worth keeping will be offered positions at Martinez Tech. Everyone except you. Elena, wait. Victor stood, reaching out as if to touch her arm. She stepped back, and he dropped his hand. I'm sorry. For everything. I was an idiot. I threw away something real for Diane? Elena's voice turned icy. Speaking of your lover, how is she? I heard the pregnancy was fake. Must have been embarrassing when that came out. Victor's face flushed red. That was a misunderstanding. Was it? Or was it a deliberate lie to manipulate you? Tell me, Victor, have you figured out yet that Diane used you just like you used me? Victor said nothing, but his expression told Elena everything. Yes, he'd figured it out. Too late, but he'd figured it out. Let me guess, Elena continued, enjoying this more than she should. Diane wanted access to the Martinez Tech shares she thought you'd get through marriage. When she realized you hadn't gotten them, she started pulling away. The fake pregnancy was a last-ditch attempt to keep you committed until she could figure out another angle. How do you know all this? Because I've been watching both of you very carefully. Elena walked to the window. Diane approached 3 of my competitors last month, trying to sell inside information about my company. Information she doesn't actually have, by the way. She thought that because she's my stepsister, she could claim to have insights into my plans. She turned back to Victor. My competitors informed me immediately. Diane has burned every bridge she had. Nobody trusts her. Nobody wants her. She's toxic. She left me last week, Victor admitted quietly. Took everything she could carry and moved in with some banker she met at a club. Elena felt nothing. No satisfaction, no pity, nothing. Then you're both exactly where you deserve to be. Elena, please, isn't there any part of you that remembers what we had? We were happy once, weren't we? No, Victor. You were never happy with me. You were patient. There's a difference. Elena pressed a button on her desk. Security will escort you out. Don't come back. And don't try to contact me again. All future communications will go through lawyers. 2 security guards appeared at the door. Victor looked at them, then back at Elena, one last desperate plea in his eyes. Elena, Goodbye, Victor. He was escorted out. Elena watched through her office window as he was led across the executive floor, past her employees who were all carefully not watching. When the elevator doors closed on his defeated figure, Elena finally allowed herself to feel something. But it wasn't satisfaction. It was emptiness. She'd imagined this moment for months. Victor realizing who she was, what she'd become, what he'd lost. She'd thought it would feel triumphant. Instead, she just felt tired. James knocked and entered. Ms. Martinez, your next appointment is here. Mr. Alexander Knight? Elena frowned. I don't have an Alexander Knight on my schedule. He doesn't have an appointment. But he says you'll want to meet him. He says he knew your mother. The mysterious Alexander Knight. Alexander Knight didn't look like a typical businessman. He was tall, probably in his early 40s, with silver threading through his dark hair. He wore an expensive suit but somehow made it look casual. His eyes were steel gray, sharp and assessing. Ms. Martinez. He extended his hand. Thank you for seeing me without an appointment. I realize that's presumptuous. Elena shook his hand, noting the firm grip. My assistant says you knew my mother. I did. Sophia and I were business partners many years ago, before she met your father. Alexander sat when Elena gestured to the chair, the same chair Victor had occupied 20 minutes ago. I was there when she founded Martinez Tech. Elena's interest sharpened. I don't have any records of a partner. That's because I signed away my stake when Sophia got married. Your father didn't like the idea of her having a male business partner. Alexander smiled ruefully. I thought I was doing the right thing, giving her space to build her marriage. I didn't realize I was leaving her vulnerable to a man who would steal her company. Why are you here, Mr. Knight? Call me Alexander, please. He pulled out a folder, placing it on Elena's desk. I've been watching your rise with interest. You remind me so much of your mother. The same intelligence, the same determination. But there's something else there now. Something harder. Elena didn't touch the folder. You still haven't answered my question. I'm here to help you destroy Victor Westfield. Alexander's bluntness caught her off guard. And your father. And anyone else who hurt you. I'm here because I couldn't help Sophia, but I can help you. I don't need help. Perhaps not. But wouldn't it be easier with someone who has resources, connections, and absolutely no love for the man who destroyed Sophia's legacy? Alexander leaned back. I've been buying up Victor's debts. I own approximately 40% of them. I've been waiting for the right moment to use that leverage. Elena opened the folder. Inside were documents proving everything Alexander claimed. He owned massive amounts of Victor's debt, along with several of his properties. Why wait? You could have bankrupted him months ago. Because I wanted to see what you would do first. Alexander's gray eyes studied her. I wanted to see if Sophia's daughter had inherited her strength. You have. But you've also inherited her tendency to carry the weight of the world alone. I prefer working alone. So did your mother. It's what allowed your father to take advantage of her. Alexander stood, preparing to leave. I'm not asking you to trust me, Elena. I'm simply offering my resources. What you do with that offer is entirely up to you. He walked to the door, then paused. Your mother was the strongest person I ever knew. But strength doesn't mean you have to face everything alone. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is accept help from someone who wants nothing but the best for you. After he left, Elena sat staring at the folder. Alexander Knight. A name from her mother's past, appearing just when Elena was beginning to feel the weight of her revenge. She didn't believe in coincidences. But she also didn't believe in white knights riding to the rescue. Still, she opened her computer and began researching Alexander Knight. What she found was impressive. The man had built a business empire that rivaled her own. He'd done it quietly, without the flash and arrogance of people like Victor. He'd also never married, never had serious relationships that the media knew about. And according to every source Elena could find, he'd been a silent supporter of Sofia Martinez before her death. He'd attended her funeral. He'd donated to the charities she loved. He'd kept her memory alive in ways Elena's own father never had. Maybe, Elena thought, maybe Alexander Knight was exactly what he appeared to be, someone who had loved her mother and wanted to help her daughter. Or maybe he was another Victor, playing a longer game. Time would tell. The Charity Gala revelation. 3 weeks after Alexander's visit, Elena attended the Metropolitan Charity Gala, the biggest social event of the season. Everyone who was anyone would be there. Including, she knew, Victor and Diane. Elena wore a dress that cost more than most people's cars, a deep emerald green that made her eyes glow. Diamonds glittered at her throat and wrists. She looked like money and power had a baby and named it Elegance. Alexander Knight appeared at her side within minutes of her arrival. He wore a classic tuxedo and looked like he'd stepped out of an old Hollywood movie. Ms. Martinez. You look stunning. Mr. Knight. I didn't know you'd be here. I'm on the planning committee. Plus, I never miss an opportunity to support children's education. He offered his arm. May I escort you? Elena hesitated, then accepted. Why not? They moved through the crowd, and Elena noticed the whispers. People were speculating about who Alexander was, what their relationship might be. Good. Let them wonder. She spotted Victor across the room, looking uncomfortable in a rented tuxedo. Diane was with him, dressed in a gown that was trying too hard. They looked like exactly what they were, People pretending to be wealthy when they were actually drowning in debt. "They're here," Alexander murmured. "I see them." "Are you going to confront them?" "Why would I? They're irrelevant now." But even as Elena said it, she saw Diane pointing at her, saying something to Victor. They were staring at her with obvious envy and hatred. Perfect. The gala's entertainment began, a presentation about the charity's work. Elena had donated $5 million, making her one of the largest contributors. When her name was announced, the crowd applauded. She stood, acknowledging them graciously, and caught Diane's expression. Pure, undiluted hatred. After the presentation, Elena excused herself to use the restroom. She was touching up her lipstick when Diane burst through the door. "You think you're so special now, don't you?" Diane's face was flushed, whether from alcohol or anger, Elena couldn't tell. Elena calmly finished her lipstick before turning. "Hello, Diane. How's the banker working out?" "Shut up. Just shut up." Diane stalked closer. "You don't get to judge me. You don't get to act superior." "I'm not acting." Diane slapped her. The sound echoed in the bathroom like a gunshot. Elena's head turned slightly from the impact, but she didn't move otherwise. Slowly, deliberately, she straightened and looked at Diane with eyes that held no emotion at all. "Feel better? You ruined everything." Diane's voice rose hysterically. "Victor and I were happy until you came back. You've been sabotaging his company, destroying his life, all because you're jealous." "Jealous?" Elena laughed, a cold sound. "Of what, exactly? Your fake pregnancy? Your parade of wealthy men who see right through you? Or maybe the fact that Victor used you just like he used me, and you were too stupid to realize it? He loved me. He loved your lies about having access to my inheritance. The moment he realized you were as worthless as he thought I was, he stopped caring." Elena stepped closer, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "You want to know the truth, Diane? Victor never loved either of us. He's not capable of love. He only understands transactions. And you were a bad investment." Diane raised her hand to slap Elena again, but Elena caught her wrist mid-swing. Her grip was iron. "Touch me again, and I'll have you arrested for assault. There are cameras in this hallway, and I have the best lawyers in New York. Try me." She released Diane's wrist and walked past her to the door. Diane's voice followed her, shrill and desperate. "You'll never be happy. You'll always be that pathetic little girl pretending to be something she's not." Elena paused at the door. "No, Diane. I'll always be the woman who rose from the ashes while you're still choking on the smoke." She left Diane in the bathroom and returned to the gala. Alexander was waiting for her, concern in his gray eyes. "Are you all right? I saw Diane follow you." "I'm fine." Elena accepted a champagne flute from a passing waiter. "Just taking out the trash." The final blow to Victor. The next morning, Elena executed the final phase of her plan against Victor. She'd been patient, strategic, methodical. Now it was time to end it. She called an emergency meeting with Victor's remaining board members. They arrived at Martinez Tech headquarters looking confused and worried. Elena greeted them professionally, offering coffee and breakfast. "Gentlemen, thank you for coming on such short notice. I'll get straight to the point. Westfield Enterprises is functionally bankrupt. Within 2 weeks, you'll be forced to file for Chapter 11 unless you find substantial capital immediately." The board members exchanged glances. They knew this, but hearing it stated so bluntly was still painful. "I'm here to make you an offer," Elena continued. "Martinez Tech will acquire all of Westfield's assets at fair market value. Your employees will be offered positions in my company with better salaries and benefits. Your investors will recoup at least 60% of their investments, which is more than they'd get in bankruptcy." "What about Victor?" one board member asked. "Victor Westfield will receive nothing. He'll be removed as CEO, stripped of all positions, and barred from any role in the new company structure. Elena's voice was ice. Additionally, I'll be filing a lawsuit against him personally for embezzlement and fraud. He stole millions from Westfield Enterprises, and I have documentation of every transaction. The room went silent. Why are you doing this? Another board member asked. This seems personal. It is personal. Elena didn't see any point in hiding it. Victor Westfield was my husband. He married me to steal my inheritance, cheated on me with my stepsister, and threw me away when he thought I had nothing. Now I'm showing him what it feels like to lose everything. The honesty seemed to shock them more than the offer itself. So this is revenge? This is justice. Elena stood, placing contracts in front of each board member. You have 24 hours to decide. Accept my offer, save your employees and investors, and walk away with something. Or stay loyal to a man who's been stealing from you, and lose everything in bankruptcy. Your choice. They took the contracts and left. Elena knew they'd accept. They had no other option. By end of business the next day, all board members had signed. Westfield Enterprises officially belonged to Martinez Tech. Victor called her office 53 times. She didn't answer. He showed up at the building and was denied entry by security. He sent emails that went straight to spam. Finally, he found her at a coffee shop near her apartment, ambushing her on a Saturday morning when she wasn't expecting it. Elena, please, just talk to me. He looked even worse than before, unshaven and desperate. Victor, I've said everything I need to say. You have nothing I want anymore. I'm homeless. I lost my apartment, my car, everything. His voice cracked. I'm staying at a friend's couch. I have nothing. Now you know how I felt. Elena sipped her coffee calmly. When you handed me those divorce papers and threw me away like garbage. When you told me I was worth nothing. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Tears ran down Victor's face. Elena, I'm begging you. Not for money, just for forgiveness. Tell me you forgive me so I can move on with my life. Elena looked at this man she'd once loved, this man who destroyed her so carelessly. She felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, nothing. I don't forgive you, Victor. But I don't hate you anymore either. You're just nothing to me now. And that's the worst punishment I could give you. She left him standing there and never looked back. Part 3, Redemption and New Love, 2,000 words. The weight of victory. 3 months after destroying Victor's empire, Elena sat in her office late at night, staring at financial reports she couldn't focus on. She'd won. She'd taken everything from the man who tried to take everything from her. She'd proven she was powerful, successful, untouchable. So why did she feel so empty? Her phone buzzed. Alexander Knight. They'd been talking regularly since the gala, and Elena was surprised to find she actually enjoyed his company. He was intelligent, witty, and seemed to expect nothing from her. Still at the office? His text read. Where else would I be? Anywhere but there. It's 11 p.m., Elena. Says the man who's probably also at his office. Actually, I'm at home with a glass of wine and a good book. You should try it sometime. Elena smiled despite herself. Some of us have empires to run. Empires don't fall apart if you take one evening off. Trust me, I've tested this theory extensively. Before she could respond, her office phone rang. The front desk security guard. Ms. Martinez, there's a woman here demanding to see you. Says she's your stepmother. Should I call the police? Catherine. Elena hadn't spoken to her stepmother since taking over Martinez Tech. The woman had tried to call several times, but Elena had blocked her number. Send her up. But station a guard outside my office. 5 minutes later, Catherine entered. She looked older, worn down by stress. Her expensive clothes couldn't hide the fact that she'd been crying. Elena, thank you for seeing me. You have 5 minutes. Elena didn't offer her a seat. Your father is in the hospital. He had a heart attack 2 days ago. Catherine's voice shook. The doctors say it's serious. He's asking for you. Elena felt a flicker of something. Not concern exactly, but not complete indifference either. Why would he ask for me? Because you're his daughter. Because despite everything, he loves you. He has an interesting way of showing love. Elena's voice was dry. Stealing from my mother's company, siding with Victor, encouraging Diane to betray me. He made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. Catherine stepped closer. But he's dying, Elena. He wants to apologize before it's too late. Tell him I said no. Catherine's face crumpled. Please. I know we treated you horribly. I know we don't deserve your forgiveness. But he's my husband, and he's dying, and he's in so much pain. Good. The word came out harsher than Elena intended. He should be in pain. He deserves every second of it. But even as she said it, Elena remembered being young, before her father remarried. She remembered him reading her bedtime stories, teaching her to ride a bike, telling her she could be anything she wanted. When had he changed? Or had he always been this person, and Elena had been too young to see it? Please, Catherine whispered. Just one visit. That's all I'm asking. Elena closed her eyes. She thought about her mother, about what Sophia would want. Her mother had been strong but never cruel. She'd believed in justice, not revenge. Fine. One visit. But I'm not promising forgiveness. The hospital confession. The hospital room was private, expensive. Her father had used stolen money to afford the best care. Elena tried not to think about that as she entered. Richard Martinez looked small in the hospital bed, hooked up to machines that beeped steadily. He'd aged years and months, his skin gray, his eyes sunken. Elena. His voice was barely a whisper. You came. Catherine said you wanted to apologize. Elena stayed near the door, ready to leave. So apologize. I'm so sorry. Tears leaked from his eyes. For everything. For marrying Catherine and letting her turn me against you. For stealing from your mother's company. For supporting Victor. For all of it. Why did you do it? Elena's voice was cold. Mom loved you. I loved you. We would have given you anything. Why did you steal? Why did you betray us? Richard was quiet for a long moment. Because I felt worthless. Your mother was brilliant, successful, powerful. I was just the man she married. Everyone knew Martinez Tech was her creation, her vision. I contributed nothing. So you decided to steal what she built. I wanted to feel important. I wanted people to respect me for something other than being Sophia Martinez's husband. He coughed, wincing in pain. I told myself I deserved it, that I'd helped her even if I hadn't. The lies got easier over time. And what about me? Your own daughter? I was jealous of you too. The confession seemed to cause him physical pain. You're so much like your mother. Smart, capable, strong. When Victor showed interest in you, I encouraged it because I thought if he could control you, I could control the company through him. Elena felt sick. You sold me to Victor. Yes. Richard's tears came harder now. I sold my own daughter for business advantage. And I'll die knowing what a monster that makes me. Elena should have felt vindicated. This was the confession she'd wanted, the admission of guilt. But instead, she just felt tired. I don't forgive you, she said quietly. I don't know if I ever will. But I don't want you to die alone. She pulled a chair to his bedside and sat down. Richard's hand reached for hers, trembling and weak. Elena looked at it for a long moment, then took it. They sat in silence, father and daughter, connected by blood and broken by betrayal. Outside, the sun rose over New York City. Inside, Richard Martinez took his last breath. Elena felt his hand go slack in hers. The machine's steady beep turned into a flat line. Nurses rushed in, but it was too late. He was gone. Elena stood, looking down at the man who'd given her life and then tried to destroy it. She felt a tear slide down her cheek, surprising her. She was crying, but not for him. She was crying for the father he could have been, should have been. For the relationship they'd lost years before his death. "Goodbye, Dad," she whispered. Alexander's truth. 2 weeks after her father's funeral, Elena found herself at Alexander Knight's penthouse apartment. He'd invited her for dinner, and for reasons she couldn't explain, she'd accepted. The apartment was beautiful but not ostentatious. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park. The furniture was comfortable, lived in. Books lined the shelves, real books with worn spines. "This isn't what I expected," Elena admitted. "What did you expect? A bachelor pad with a view?" Alexander handed her a glass of wine. "I'm 43, Elena. I'm past the age of trying to impress people with expensive toys." "Then why the expensive suit every time I see you?" "That's for work. When I'm home, I prefer comfort over style." He gestured to his casual clothes, jeans, and a sweater. "I hope you don't mind that I'm not dressed up." "It's refreshing, actually." Elena sipped her wine. "It was excellent, of course. Everyone else in my life is always performing, always trying to prove something. Your father's death must have been difficult." "It was complicated. I didn't forgive him, but I stayed with him at the end. I'm not sure if that makes me weak or strong." "It makes you human." Alexander moved to the kitchen, checking on whatever he was cooking. The smell was incredible. "Forgiveness isn't weakness, Elena. Sometimes it's the strongest thing we can do. I feel like I should be angrier. About everything. But I'm just tired." "That's because revenge is exhausting." Alexander plated the food, a perfectly cooked salmon with vegetables. "Trust me, I know." Elena looked at him curiously. "You sound like you have experience." "I do." He brought the plates to the table, sitting across from her. "When your mother died, I wanted to destroy your father. I blamed him for her death. She died from stress-related heart failure, working herself to death trying to fix the mess he'd made of the company. I didn't know you felt that way. I've spent 15 years planning revenge against Richard Martinez. I bought properties he wanted, blocked business deals he needed, made his life difficult in 100 small ways." Alexander smiled sadly. "And you know what? It didn't make me feel better. It didn't bring Sophia back. It just made me bitter. So why did you help me with Victor?" "Because I didn't want you to waste 15 years like I did. I wanted you to get your revenge quickly so you could move on to the important part." "What's the important part?" "Living." Alexander reached across the table, his hand hovering near hers. "Building something new. Finding happiness. Letting yourself be more than the sum of your pain." Elena looked at his hand, then at his face. Those gray eyes held no deception, no hidden agenda. Just honest concern. "Why do you care about me?" she asked. "We barely know each other." "Because you remind me of Sophia. But more than that, I see someone drowning in success who's forgotten how to be happy. I've been there. It's lonely. I don't know how to be happy anymore," Elena admitted. "I've spent so long being angry, being focused on revenge. Now that it's done, I don't know who I am." "Then let's figure it out together." Alexander's hand finally completed its journey, covering hers gently. Elena should have pulled away. She'd sworn off men, sworn off trust, sworn off vulnerability. But sitting there in Alexander's comfortable apartment, eating good food and drinking better wine, Elena felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safe. Victor's return. 3 months later, Elena was happier than she'd been in years. She and Alexander had been dating, though they kept it quiet from the media. He was patient, kind, and never pushed her faster than she was ready to go. Martinez Tech continued to thrive. Elena had merged it with several of Alexander's companies, creating a business empire that dominated multiple industries. She was one of the most powerful women in America, and for the first time, that felt like enough. She was leaving her office late one evening when she found Victor waiting by her car. He looked better. He'd clearly gotten himself together, found a job somewhere, regained some dignity. But his eyes still held that desperate edge. "Elena, please don't call security. I just want to talk." "Victor, we have nothing to talk about. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Truly sorry. Not because I want something from you, but because you deserve to hear it." He took a breath. "I destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me. I was arrogant and cruel and stupid. You were kind and loyal and I threw that away." Elena studied him. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I'm in therapy. My therapist said I needed to make amends, to apologize to the people I've hurt without expecting anything in return." Victor smiled sadly. "You were at the top of that list." "I appreciate the apology," Elena said carefully. "But it doesn't change anything." "I know. I'm not asking for forgiveness or another chance. I just wanted you to know that I understand what I lost. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life being a better person." He turned to leave, then paused. "You look happy. Really happy." "I'm glad." "Victor?" Elena called after him. He turned back. "I hope you find happiness too. Real happiness, not the fake kind you were chasing when we were married." "Thank you. That means more than you know." He walked away, and Elena watched him go. She felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no lingering pain. Just a distant sense of closure. Her phone rang. "Alexander." "Hey, beautiful. Still at the office?" "Just leaving." "Victor was here. Do I need to come punch someone?" His tone was light, but Elena heard the underlying seriousness. "No." He apologized. "It was actually kind of nice." "Nice enough to cancel our dinner plans?" Elena smiled, unlocking her car. "Not even close. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I'll be waiting." "And Elena?" "Yes? I love you." The words hung in the air. Alexander had never said them before. Elena's heart raced, but not with fear. With joy. "I love you too," she said, and realized she meant it. The wedding and the future. 6 months later, Elena stood in a private garden wearing a simple white dress. No big wedding, no media circus, just close friends and the people who truly mattered. Alexander waited at the end of the aisle in a classic tuxedo, his gray eyes bright with happiness. Margaret Chin sat in the front row, crying happy tears. Even Catherine was there, having slowly rebuilt a relationship with Elena after Richard's death. Diane was not invited. Neither was Victor, though Elena had heard he'd gotten engaged to someone he met in his therapy group. She hoped it worked out for him this time. As Elena walked down the aisle, she thought about how far she'd come. She'd started as the Omega everyone dismissed, the wife everyone betrayed, the daughter everyone forgot. Now she was Elena Martinez Knight, CEO of one of the largest business empires in the world, partner to a man who loved her for who she was, and finally, at peace. Alexander took her hand, his grip strong and sure. "Ready?" he whispered. "For what?" "For everything. The rest of our lives. Building something together. Being happy." Elena smiled, truly smiled, for the first time in years. More than ready. They said their vows. They kissed as husband and wife. And as they walked back down the aisle together, Elena realized something important. Revenge hadn't healed her. Love had. Success hadn't completed her. Happiness had. And the girl who'd been told she was worthless had become a woman who knew her worth. Epilogue, 5 years later. Elena stood in the office of Martinez Tech, now renamed Martinez Knight Industries. The company had tripled in size since her marriage to Alexander. They'd opened branches in 12 countries, employed over 50,000 people, and revolutionized 3 different industries. But that wasn't what made Elena proud. What made her proud was the nonprofit she'd started, the Sofia Martinez Foundation, which provided business loans and mentorship to women leaving abusive relationships. Hundreds of women had rebuilt their lives with the foundation's help. What made her proud was the 2-year-old daughter sleeping in the portable crib in the corner of her office, proof that happy endings were possible. What made her proud was the fact that she'd taken her pain and turned it into purpose. Alexander entered, carrying coffee and a knowing smile. Board meeting in 10 minutes. I know. I'm ready. He kissed her forehead, then peeked at their sleeping daughter. She's perfect. She gets it from me. Elena grinned. No arguments there. They left the office together, partners in every sense of the word. As they walked through the halls of the company Elena had saved and transformed, employees greeted them with genuine respect and affection. This was success. Not the revenge, not the money, not the power. This. Love, family, purpose, peace. Elena had started her journey believing she was worthless. She'd learned she was priceless. And that made all the difference. The end. Welcome to Heart's Obsession. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing romantic stories.